Today is Yom Chamishi, Thursday, and we're going to learn, as usual, the HafTorah for this week's Torah portion. The HafTorah usually has some connection to the Torah portion that we learn. As you know, the HafTorah was usually something taken from the prophets or from the writings. Sometimes it's taken from Chronicles, but the HafTorah, it was read in the synagogues because there was a time when the Romans forbade the Torah to be read in public. If they found someone reading in public, so they would punish them. So, and it's just they would be there and they would read the Torah. There's different versions of what happened. Some say they would read the Torah in public, but when the Romans would come in, they would read from from the prophets, or they'd just read from the prophets. So it was something like it. Everyone was always learning the Torah, there's no doubt about it. But in any case, it was adopted, the custom of reading, after the reading of the Torah, to read from the prophets. That's called the HafTorah. So this week has a little mention of Abraham. It comes from Isiah, the end of chapter 40 and the beginning, most of chapter 41 of Isiah. Now, who was Isiah? Isiah was a very holy Jew, a very, very holy Jew, and he got prophecy. He was like a little bit after the middle of the first temple, He was in the time of Chezkiyahu, the Melech, King Chezkiyahu, that a lot of his prophecies were about Chezkiyahu. That Chezkiyahu had all the qualifications to be the Mashiach. It wouldn't have been hard for Chezkiyahu to actually, because all the Jews already were in Israel. That's one of the things the Mashiach was to do. And also was supposed to draw all the Jewish people to do the Torah and the commandments, which they also were doing. But he had made certain very minor mistakes that disqualified him for being Mashiach, at least in God's eyes. And so he wasn't the Mashiach. Didn't come to be Mashiach. Okay, in any case, Isiah is prophesying to the Jewish people in these times, and he is saying that the Jewish people had better, get their act together. I mean, it wasn't an act. They were acting bad. They get their reality together. And of course, nobody listened to him. There must have been somebody that listened to him. I don't know, but it certainly wasn't enough people there. I mean, if I was there, I hope I would have listened to him, but it's pretty big doubt. I mean, all these people were very holy, inspired Jews, but there also was a tremendous urge for idolatry then. We don't have that nowadays. Now we got, weak idolatry and Christianity and those things. That's nothing like the idolatry that was back then. Then it was like really strong, and the kings worshipped idols, and his son, Menashe, was an evil person. In any case, the point of that is not to say bad things about the Jewish people, but to say that, in fact, these prophecies of Isiah are really meant for after the destruction of the second temple. That already makes problems. Are you sure, 100%? What does it say? But nevertheless, that's it, because God destroyed the second temple. So these prophecies are talking about how Mashiach is going to come and redeem all the Jewish people. And that's what it's saying over here. Let's see. Lama Tomor Yaakov. This is how it starts off this week. Lama, why? Tomor Yaakov, why are you saying Yaakov is a name for the Jewish people? V'tadaber Yisrael, and Israel will speak. Same thing. Yaakov is usually the lower level of the Jewish people, and Yisrael is a higher level. Why are you saying Nistra Darki Me Hashem, that my ways are hidden from God? In other words, that God doesn't care what I do. Umilahai Mishpati Yavor, and from my God, my judgment will pass over. In other words, God doesn't care what I do. The Jewish people let God down so many times that God is just sort of numb, to the disappointments. So God doesn't care about us. He says, don't say it. Well, why do you say such a stupid thing? Halo Yadata, don't you know? Im Lo Shamata, didn't you hear? Elohei Olam, that the God of the world, Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Bore Katzot Ha'oretz, he creates the ends of the earth. Lo Ya'ef, he will never get tired, won't get tired of you. The Lo Yigan, he'll never be worn out. And Cheker L'Tevunato, there's no end to his understanding. And don't think that maybe you can understand God. If someone would do to you what you've done to God, then you would certainly abandon that person. Well, God doesn't look at it that way. God understands, has a bigger picture of reality than you. You're just looking at this some myopic understanding of what the world is in relation to you, and God has a much bigger picture. God, not only will God not get tired from you, God gives the tired people power. And those people who are helpless, own means power. Those people who are helpless, atzmo yarbe, he gives them tremendous, how do you say, fortitude. Yavu narim, young men can get tired. You ever see like a sports game, like soccer or something? These guys run around for like an hour without stopping. They can just run and run sports. It says, well, even those people, they get tired. You go, and they become worn out. And another word for young men, they can trip up, their power leaves them. But those people who trust in God, will get renewed power. Ya'alu ever kayona, they will grow wings like eagles. Yerutzu v'lo yigo, they can run and they will never get tired. Yilchu v'lo yafu, and they will walk and they will never be, they say, fatigued. In other words, what does it mean? It means when God decides that the time of redemption is going to come, that all the Jews will come to Israel, nothing is going to stop them. Nothing else. If they have to, they'll grow wings like eagles or whatever. And that's pretty good. 1 second. Let's see where this is. I want to change. Oh, here we go. Chapter Mem Aleph. Hacharishu Elai Iyim. Now this is the message for the non-Jews. Be quiet. Listen to me. Faraway islands, Ula'umim, and the nations. Yachlifu koach. Change your energy, and change your priorities. Yigshu az, come close. Az yidaberu, we will speak together. Lemishpat nikrava. Let's come close to make a judgment. You think the Jewish people are finished? That's what you think. All nations of the world, right? You got the Jews outnumbered 500 to 1, 1,000 to 1. And you think that that means that the Jewish people are going to be defeated somehow or other, or that God has left the Jewish people? Me'ir mi Mizrach, who shined or woke up from the east, Tzedek. Now this is talking about Abraham. It explains that this is talking about Abraham with the first Jew. We'll see in a moment. Yikra'u l'raglo. Yikra'u l'raglo. That his feet, how do you say, began, who called Abraham that he should start to move? Now, Mizrach, Abraham left the idolatry of the far east, and he went, Yitain lefanav goyim, God put before him nations. We skipped that in this week's Torah portion. Like I say, I sort of have regrets, but we wouldn't have been able to finish everything. That Abraham fought against these 4 powerful kings that defeated 5 other kings, defeated them. And Abraham defeated them. Malachim Yorad, and on kings he ruled. Yitain ka'afar charbo, he killed people with his sword like grains of dirt. Kakash nidaf, like straw that's, how do you say, floats away in the wind. kashto, with his bow and arrow. In other words, Abraham, when he warred against these kings, he did it alone. Some say he had Eliezer to help him. But in any case, he killed, who knows, thousands. Totally unnatural. One person can't do a thing like that. And he was already old. He was at least 75 years old. Year of fame, he pursued them. He pursued them. Just 1 minute. Let me. Excuse me. Yeah. He pursued them, Yavor Shalom, and he emerged unscathed. Orach Baraglov, Lo Ba'ah, on a path where his feet had never gone. That was, God told him to leave Haran and Ur Kasdim, and he had these big battles and wars. Mipal Ba'oseh, who is it that has brought about and accomplished all this? Who did it? Korah Doros LaRosh, the one that called the generation, proclaimed the generations from the beginning. In other words, God knew everything that was going to happen before it happened. Ani Hashem Rishon, I am God, I am first. That Achronim Anihu. And as regard to the end, I am the first, and I will be with the last of all the generations. And there's from Adam until Mashiach and the raising of the dead. Look, Ro'im, look, islands, V'yiro, and be afraid. Katzota Oretz Yacharot, the ends of the world were trembling. Korvu V'ye'asayun, they came close and they shuddered. They shuddered, and when they heard about how Abraham had defeated everybody, all the nations in the world. And what was Abraham? Abraham had been thrown into a fiery furnace because he destroyed all these idols and all this. It says that Ishet Re'eu Yazor, all the non-Jews, the enemies of Abraham, they said, listen, let's not lose heart. Let's get together. Let's help each other. And let's be strong. And what is it? The people, each man would help the ones who made idols. Machlif Patish, I told them, the ones who pounded their iron idols with hammers. Pam Omer Ledevek Tov, they would say to the certain type of glue, this is good. Hu Yachzikenu b'masmarim. Hu Yachzikenu. He'll be strong. They made these idols, and they said, we'll make it with some sort of a super glue, whatever, that it'll never fall apart. B'masmarim, with nails, lo yamutzu, that'll never move. They made huge, massive idols, pictures of, who knows, dogs, cats, whatever they worshipped. They worshipped everything, and it worked. It worked great. You see these nations that were huge, they were massive. All of a sudden comes along Abraham, breaks all the idols, makes a war against all these nations, and defeats them all single-handedly. So they say, listen, obviously the problem is we didn't make strong enough idols. Right? This Abraham, he's got some sort of a power that he could destroy the old idols, but now we're getting new, new weaponry. What's going to be bigger idols? Ba'ata Yisrael, says Isaiah, Isaiah, of course, is saying what God's saying. He's the spokesman for God. And you Jewish people, of the Yaakov, my servant Yaakov, Asher Bacharticha, that I chose you, Zera Avram Avi, the seed of Abraham, my servant. Okay, this just a small innuendo over here. The great thing about Abraham, interestingly enough, the Torah doesn't tell us any of this, that Abraham fought these big battles and he killed all these people. This is all, what is Isaiah talking about? Where did he get this from? He says all this, what he's saying is true, and all of this happened. Why isn't it written in the Torah? Because that's not the main thing. By Abraham, his accomplishments and his personal greatness and holiness was not really so much of an issue. Abraham was not chosen because of his piety and his holiness and his devotion to God and all this. He wasn't chosen because of anything that he did. And that's why the Torah doesn't mention any of his accomplishments until he was 75 years old. When he was 75 years old, that's where this week's Torah portion begins. Before that, he had been thrown on a fiery furnace. He did all sorts of other things. And even the accomplishments that he did afterwards, which this is one of them, fighting these. Because the main thing of Abraham is that God chose him, that God said to him, Lech Lecha. And the power of the Jews is not from the Jews. The power of the Jews is from God. They're God's people. Just like the land of Israel is not bigger than all the other lands. And the Jewish people are not more, populous, or they have, they can lift weights or something like that. They have the greatest runners or boxers or whatever it is. And if they do happen to, that's not the greatness of the Jews. The greatness of the Jews is that God chose them. Whether it's a big Jew, a small Jew, a successful Jew, a failed Jew, a smart Jew, a stupid Jew, a holy Jew, a sinning Jew, doesn't make any difference. By God, the fact that he's a Jew, that he inherited from Abraham, just like Abraham inherited from God. That's why the Torah only begins with God calling it, with the story of Abraham. Why the Torah sort of jumps over all these accomplishments and character traits that he had. Even Noah says that he was Tzadik Tamim, and Abraham, it doesn't say. It says because the main thing of Abraham is not his personal quality, is the fact that God chose him. Asher hechzevticha, God says, don't worry about it. The nations are greater than you. The nations are bigger than you. They have all these huge idols and things like that up to now have really worked pretty good. They've conquered the whole world. So, but the fact of the matter is none of them have this one quality that you have, Jews, that I chose you. Asher hechzevticha, that I have supported you mikatzot ha'oretz, from the ends of the world. From the ends of the world. Umatzi lecha koraticha, and from your noblemen I will call you. From the noblemen of the world I will call you. And I will say, these other nations, they have, huge armies. They have 50,000 planes and 1 million tanks and, the thousands of atom bombs and things like that. And you Jewish people, what do you have? You're my servants. B'charticha, I chose you. V'lo masticha, and I will never be despised by you. You'll never. Al tira, don't be afraid. What's this? Al tira, do not be afraid. Tolat Yaakov, Jacob, the worm. In other words, even if you Jewish people are as low as a worm, there's another place where it says that just like the worm, his power is in his mouth. It's because worms don't have arms, they don't have whatever it is, stingers or something like that. All they have is their mouth. Well, the power of the Jews is in their mouth. They pray to God with prayer. Don't be afraid. Yes, excuse me. I just want to look at some of these explanations over here. What sentence is this? Do not be afraid. עוד 5 דקות אני צוצה, 5 דקות, אני גומר משהו. Al tira tolat Yaakov, do not be afraid. Here we go, good. The worm of Jacob. In other words, even if you're like low as a worm, don't worry. Matei Yisrael, the man of Israel, Ani azarticha, I will help you. Nu'um Hashem, says God. V'goalech, and I am your redeemer. Kadosh Yisrael, the Holy One of Israel. Hine, behold, Samtich, I have made you morig charutz, like a plowing share with a lot of teeth that are very sharp. That's brand new. Bao pio pifios, that has a lot of, like I said, a lot of blades. Tadush harim, you will plow over mountains. The tidok, and you will crush them. Gavaot kamots to see him. You will put the high places of the world like chaff. Tizarim, you will scatter them. You scatter them. For ruach tisaim, and you will. The ruach, like a storm, will carry them off. Will carry them off. V'sara tidahar tashur yachtav. You will be rejoicing. One second. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. 1 minute. Oh. The pointer. Okay, ready? I'll scatter all the nations. Anyone who's against you will be scattered. Va'ata, and you, tagil b'Hashem, you will rejoice in God. The Kadosh Yisrael, in the Holy One of Israel, tit halel, you will glory. In other words, God is saying to the Jewish people, it's the same message over and over in Isaiah. Jewish people, you're angering God, you're making him really mad, but God is never going to leave you. God always loves you, and that's what makes it hard on God. If he would be able to leave you, so that you wouldn't care what you do, but he does care what you do, and that's why you're getting all these punishments. But on the other hand, he's never going to leave you, and in the end, it's going to be amazingly good. All the Jewish people will be brought back to the land of Israel, and those people who oppose you, the Jewish people, their end is not going to be. It's going to be done to them what they wanted to do to you. Okay, I hope we don't have to wait too long for this. Hope we don't have to wait at all for this. Tomorrow morning, God willing, 8:15, we're finishing the Devar Malchut. Have a good day with Mashiach now. Thank you for tuning in.